Shalom. This is Rabbi Yehuda Glick from the Shalom Jerusalem Foundation, and we are once again Shalom. This is Rabbi Yehuda Glick from the Shalom Jerusalem Foundation, and we are once again with portion question. And this week we're talking about the portion of the Torah called Korach. We're talking about the book of Numbers, chapters 16, 17, and 18. And before I begin with the question, just want to apologize. I promised that this question will be given every week on Mondays. But unfortunately, this week I was resting on Monday and Tuesday, back to the pain I was suffering from due to the attack, the lynch I went through. So it waited till Wednesday. I will get my answer on Friday, so you'll have 2 days. I will remind you, portion questions, we talk about a portion of the Torah. I put down a question. I wait to receive your responses. And then on Friday, I put up my response, my perspective on the question, and I refer to the answers that were given here. So the question we were talking about today, as I said, will refer to the portion of the Torah called Korach, the story of Korach, which appears in the book of Numbers in chapter 16, 17, mainly in 16, 17. And here's the question. The story talks about Korach, who comes up and speaks, and he says, he goes up and he says, I'm reading in the book of Numbers, chapter 16, verse 3, they assembled against Moses and Aaron and said to him, you take too much upon yourselves, for the entire congregations are holy, and the Lord is in their midst. So why do you raise yourselves above the Lord's assembly? He's complaining, everybody's holy. Why do you and Moses and Aaron believe yourselves? Why do you raise yourselves above the Lord's assembly? Okay. Moses hears that. He falls on his face, and he starts going back to Korach. And he tells them, Korach, listen, take yourselves and take the censers, the pans that they use in the sanctuary, place them into them, the incense upon them before the Lord tomorrow. And the man who the Lord chooses, he is the Holy One, and you have taken too much upon yourselves, as he says upon them. And they agree. But let's go on and continue. Moses complains against them, and then come up Datan and Aviram, and they say, why are you taking us out from a country, Egypt, which is flourishing of blood, of milk and honey? Why are you taking us to die in the desert? Well, what happens? God says to Moses and to Aaron, verse 20, disassociate yourselves from the congregation, and I will consume them in one instant. And what happens? God says and Moses comes up and goes up to Datan and Aviram, and they go up and they talk to the whole crowd, and they say, get away from these houses of these people. And in 1 second, something very bizarre happens. What happens? Something very bizarre. Shalom Beverly from Texas. And Moses says, listen carefully. Listen to what I'm saying, and I'm reading in verse 28. With this you shall know that the Lord sent me to do all these deeds, and I have not devised them for myself. If these men die as all men die, and the fate of all men will be visited upon them, then the Lord has not sent me. So shalom, Linda. Where are you from, Linda? Tell us where you're from. But if the Lord creates a creation, and the earth opens its mouth and swallows them and all that is theirs, and they descend alive into the grave, you will know that these men have provoked the Lord. Something very bizarre. They finish speaking, and the earth beneath them, shalom from Kansas, David, shalom, Linda, shalom, everybody who's joining us. As soon as he finished speaking, the earth beneath them split open, and the earth beneath them opened its mouth and swallowed them and their houses and all the men who were with Korach and all the property. They and all they possessed descended alive into the grave. The earth covered them up, and they were lost in the assembly. And all Israel who were around them filed from their cries, for they said, lest the earth swallow us up. What's going on here? Okay, there were two groups, the group of Korach and the group of Datan and Aviram. The group of Korach is complaining, listen, everybody's holy. That's nothing so wrong with saying everybody's holy. Why? Moses and Aaron, are you above all? Okay, so they didn't like the leadership of Moses and Aaron. But to be swallowed up by the land, by the earth opening its mouth, we've never heard of such a punishment like that in the Torah. Of the earth, a new creation, the earth opening its mouth and swallowing them. So, first of all, what was so wrong about what they complained? And secondly, the same thing happened with Datan and Aviram's group. Datan and Aviram were saying, listen, you promised us you're going to take us out of Egypt and bring us to a flourishing land of milk and honey. And we're dying in the desert. And they were right. After the story of last week with the spies, the scouts, all the people were dying in the desert. So they were complaining. So why do these two groups deserve such a bizarre punishment of the earth opening up and swallowing them? Excuse me. Why do they deserve such a bizarre punishment of the earth opening up and swallowing them? So this is the question of this week. What was so terrible with the complaints of Korach, Datan, Aviram, and why did they need such a great punishment? And I want to conclude with the final punishment. And fire came forth from the Lord and consumed the 250 men who had offered up the incense. Not only did the earth swallow Korach and his family and Datan and Aviram and their family, but then fire comes out from God and consumed 250 people. We want to understand the sin and the punishment of Korach, Datan, Aviram, and the 250 people. Keep up. I'm waiting to read your answers. I'll be back on Friday with my perspective, my catch on the issue. Waiting to read yours. Shalom from Jerusalem. Keep in touch. Shalom, happy Lime. Sheol is not referred to as hell. Sheol is the deepness of death. That's what the Sheol is referred to in the Bible. Sheol is the deepest of actually where death appears. And that's what the word here that was mentioned in verse 33. They go down. Sheola is the deepness of death. But we're going to be back with an answer on the portion solution. Follow us on the portion questions every week. And here we have the happy time. Did Korach go into a state of sleep or conscious punishment? We don't know exactly. I wasn't there. The story of the Bible, we're reading the words of the Bible. The words of the Bible talk about the earth opening up and they going down to Sheol, the deepestness or the deepness of the grave or the deepness of death is what Sheol is usually referred to. The deepness of death. I don't see that the Torah refers to Sheol as hell. As a matter of fact, the hell is not really mentioned in the Bible, to the best of my knowledge. Okay. It's very, yes, happy line. It's really a very unique image of untangled, and that's what I'm trying to understand. What's this whole story of the earth swallowing them? I'll be waiting to hear your answers. And happy line, tell us what your name is and where you're from, and share with us your story. I'll be more than happy to learn about you. Thank you so much. And shalom to every one of you from Jerusalem, waiting to read your answers. Shalom.